Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Gas prices are way down from the records that we hit last fall, but they're starting to creep back up. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi, and today San Diego County recorded its largest increase since October, rising 3 cents to $4.76 a gallon. The average price has gone up for the last 10 days in a row, and it comes ahead of a hearing on gasoline prices gouging scheduled next week in Sacramento. As KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado tells us, the governor has called for oil companies to be penalized.
Please back a windfall profit cap on oil refineries. The next generation of voters is watching you.
Petroleum windfall profits penalty. Will Californians get relief at the gas pump? That's the name of the hearing scheduled for Wednesday. It's the first special session of the State Senate Energy, Utilities, and Communications Committee on gas prices on Wednesday.
This hearing is about where we draw that line. How much money can they make off Californians?
That's Jamie Court. He's a consumer advocate who's been waging war against oil corporations. He says they've been at the forefront of fleecing Californians who now deserve answers. And that's why he's going to testify at that hearing.
At one point, our gas prices were $2.60 more than U.S. gas prices, which is the most it's ever been. Last time we were at a big gap, it was $1.60 difference between U.S. prices, and that was in 2015 after the Exxon refinery in Torrance blew up and wasn't open for a year. And there was no good reason for this gouging this year.
KPBS reached out to the 5 major oil corporations for comment. We did not hear back. Those oil companies have been asked to testify at next week's hearing. Court says hearings like these matter because gasoline isn't a luxury item that people can choose to go without.
Gasoline is a necessity in California, particularly Southern California. People need it to get to work. So when it costs another $20 or $25 to fill up, it is a huge difference to people on the lowest end of the spectrum. And that's why the governor proposed the price gouging penalty, because he knows not only does it hurt those people who are lowest income and in need, it also hurts the whole economy.
Court says there should be a cap on the amount of profits oil companies are allowed to make, and Californians are owed billions in refunds.
And it's time to put up or shut up. And legislators are going to be forced to make those votes.
Though gas prices have risen lately, they have fallen since they hit their peak in San Diego County last October, when it cost $6.44 for a gallon of regular. While this is only a hearing and lawmakers will not be voting, Court thinks policy will come out of this. Californians and other advocates will be able to participate in the hearing. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
San Diego was awarded nearly $900,000 by the state to promote equity in the cannabis industry. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer looks at what those funds are for and who will get them.
The goal of the funding is to address and uplift people affected by past enforcement of drug laws. Advocates say that created disparities in business ownership, wage earnings, and mass incarceration for many black and brown communities. We spoke with Armand King, who is at the forefront of local efforts to create cannabis equity across San Diego.
Done correctly, this is going to help hundreds and create generational wealth and help be able to produce funding and funding sources for communities that have been ravished by the failed war on drugs.
The roughly $880,000 of grant funding will help potential cannabis business owners pay for permitting and licensing fees. The money could also go to education and training and property rental assistance for entrepreneurship and cannabis-related businesses. The City of San Diego's Laura Gates says they're looking to distribute the funds for 36 cannabis equity licenses.
That we'd be phasing in those 36 licenses over 4 years, right? So that's 9 licenses a year. So what I would anticipate is that the first 9 licenses would really get the benefit of these dollars.
Gates says she expects applications to open early next year. First, the city needs to update its land development code. Armand King says he's excited to see this effort uplift some of San Diego's most disadvantaged communities.
This industry opening up to people like myself who served 3 years in federal prison, 9 different institutions for 10 pounds of weed as a first-time offender can now benefit off of this. And there's other people like me in the pipeline that are already doing community work. So this means a lot to more people than just I have a license. It's bigger than that.
King says he hopes the city of San Diego will add its own funds towards the cannabis equity effort. San Diego was among 16 cities and counties across the state to receive a combined $15 million in state grants funded through tax revenue generated by recreational cannabis sales. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
While cannabis is legal in California, it can have adverse side effects in some people. Coming up, what those side effects are and how they can be prevented. A Del Mar Union School District Board member has resigned following his arrest in Florida. The Polk County Sheriff's Office says Scott Wooden was among 213 people arrested during an undercover operation. According to court documents, Wooden contacted an undercover detective through an escort ad and posted online. He is accused of soliciting to commit prostitution.
This guy knows better. He's supposed to be a leader in the community. He's an elected official. He's making decisions for our children, and he's out soliciting prostitutes.
Wooden has not yet entered a plea to the charges. In a statement yesterday morning, the Del Mar Union School District said the allegations are shocking and extremely concerning. Later that afternoon, they added that Wooden has resigned effective immediately and that the board is exploring options to fill the vacancy. The 5 Memphis Police Department officers accused of killing Tyre Nichols have all pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder. The former officers were formally arraigned nearly a month after video showed the officers beating Nichols during a traffic stop. Gloria Pazmino reports.
The 5 Memphis officers charged in connection with the killing of Tyre Nichols faced a Shelby County criminal court judge Friday and declared their innocence.
At this time, we waive the formal reading of the indictment off to the court, a plea of not guilty.
Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Justin Smith, Emmett Martin III, and Desmond Mills Jr. were formally arraigned during this brief court proceeding less than a month after they were fired from the department. And 2 months since police and traffic cameras captured them brutally beating Nichols, a 29-year-old black man, after he was pulled over for a traffic stop. All 5 men are facing charges of second-degree murder, aggravated assault, aggravated kidnapping, official misconduct, and official oppression. On the other side of the courtroom, the Nichols family coming face-to-face with the men accused of taking their son's life.
They didn't even have the courage to look at me in my face after what they did to my son.
As the wheels of justice begin to turn, the Shelby County District Attorney said the office is reviewing as many as 100 cases related to the now defunct Scorpion unit, the same anti-crime unit the 5 charged police officers were once a part of.
If there's reason to doubt that the case is a valid conviction, then we'll reconsider that.
Gloria Pazmino, KPBS News.
The state of California says it can no longer afford to provide COVID-19 testing and vaccines to asylum seekers. Now Governor Newsom is asking the federal government for funding. California has been testing new arrivals for COVID, offering vaccination and isolation for those testing positive. But as the state faces a $22.5 billion deficit, Newsom says it has to scale back some of that assistance. He says he's optimistic the federal government will step in to help. However, they have not yet responded to the request. San Diego State's investigation into a report of Legionnaire's disease infection is keeping a campus building closed a while longer. Today, the university said the Exercises and Nutritional Sciences building will remain closed until at least March 3rd. SDSU says so far, no additional cases have been reported. However, until testing is completed and the building is then cleared for re-entry, no one is allowed to enter the building. Symptoms of Legionella pneumonia include cough, fever, shortness of breath, muscle aches, and headaches.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, how politics is hampering Syria's earthquake recovery efforts. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A group of Oceanside residents is pushing back against a plan to build a warehouse the size of 10 football fields near the Oceanside airport. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne spoke to the group that says the project brings too many negative impacts to move forward.
A sea of blue took over Oceanside City Council meeting this week. The group has dubbed themselves the Blue Crew, and they're pushing back against a plan to build a 560,000 square foot warehouse near the Oceanside airport.
We're not a no group. We're not, hey, we don't want anything here, but we want something that works for the residents and the city and the developer.
Darren Selnick lives near the proposed site and says so far all they've heard are what works for the developer.
A giant warehouse that's 24/7, noise, light, 114 trucks coming in and out of the neighborhood. Lots of things could be here. We just want something that works for everybody.
The project calls for the building of the distribution warehouse that includes 114 semi-loading bays and 60 large truck parking stalls. Gene O'Neill thinks the trucks, along with traffic from other approved projects in the area, will create a traffic danger.
Because of the traffic situation, and it's about to get worse, nobody who lives in this area north of the river will be able to get in and out of our homes, let alone an emergency, trying to get emergency apparatus in or out or to evacuate people.
The site's proximity to recreational activities like a bike trail and skate park drew local high schoolers to comment about the environmental impact the project would have during the city's council meeting.
This will cause an obscene amount of pollution to not only the air, to everyone around there, to the San Luis Rey River that is right behind it.
Really want to protect our land and our beaches and our oceans and everything that Oceanside has that makes it a beautiful and significant town unlike any other industrial town.
A developer representative, Molly Walters, was present at the meeting and said more community outreach will be made.
We agree that community engagement is an important part of the process. I have been taking notes on all of the comments you have shared this evening, and we'll be sure to share them with our design team.
The project is still under city review, and more public meetings will be held. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
People are rallying around a food vendor after a video of young women harassing him made the rounds on social media. It happened last Saturday around 1 o'clock in the morning outside the Viejas Arena on the SDSU campus. Jose Andres Arguelles told our media partner ABC 10 News that the women approached him upset about the price of his food and asked to have it for free.
Me robaron mi comida. They stole my food and they offended me in many different ways. They were there for 40 minutes harassing me until someone came and helped me. I lost my product and I lost clients because they saw how they were touching everything with dirty hands and they didn't want to buy from me anymore.
And he says that food vending is his only source of income. To help recoup his losses, a community buyout is planned for this Sunday at the Chrome Lady Tattoo on El Cajon Boulevard. That starts at 3 o'clock. Meanwhile, San Diego State released a statement calling the incident unacceptable and that none of the people involved are students at the university. Cal State San Marcos confirmed one of the people is a current student, adding that the university is reviewing the situation. Former Aztec star punter Matt Araiza is returning to professional football, this time south of the border. Araiza has signed with the Galgos de Tijuana for the 2023 season, and that's according to the team's social media posts. He last played for the Buffalo Bills, but was cut after he and two others were accused of raping a teenage girl at a house party in 2021. The district attorney declined to press charges in December, saying there was not enough evidence for a conviction. The civil case against him is still pending. The Padres are wrapping up their first week of spring training. There's a lot of interest in watching the games, but there are question marks over who will air them. Here's SDSU's Mira Kopik with the Friday Business Report.
The parent company of Bally Sports San Diego, Diamond Sports, they took a big step toward bankruptcy protection on Wednesday when they defaulted on a bond payment. Now, what Diamond Sports Group said to the various teams is that they will continue to keep broadcasting as usual, but Major League Commissioner Rob Manfred said, look, if payments are not made on a timely basis, there's a termination clause in every one of these agreements that the teams will proceed to terminate immediately. Major League Baseball has a fallback plan, not a great one, but it's one that will allow these games to be broadcast. So Major League Baseball then will produce the games. Major League Baseball also said that it is likely that if that were the case, the fees that the Padres would receive or any of the other 13 teams would be less than the current contract, which is very disappointing for the Padres because this is going to be a big season. But as of now, all systems go that they'll continue to do so. We should revisit this in about a month.
One of the San Diego Padres star players says he plans to opt out after this season. Manny Machado signed a 10-year, $300 million deal in 2019. It gives him the right to terminate the agreement after this season and become a free agent. The third baseman would forfeit $150 million from his current deal, which calls for a $30 million salary through 2028. Renters and owners of single-family homes can get free energy-efficient upgrades. It's part of the Residential Energy Solutions program announced today by San Diego Gas and Electric. Customers can get free products and services, including smart thermostats, low-flow shower heads, air duct testing, and sealing. The program has no income restrictions. SDG&E has contracted with Synergy companies to administer the program, and you can request an appointment by calling the number that you see on your screen. That's 1-888-272-8394. We also have the information on our website, kpbs.org.
Thanks for tuning in. Let's start you off with your weather headlines. Slowly moderating temperatures through the weekend, and we're going to be staying dry through Sunday, but we are turning colder and wetter by the middle of next week. Tonight, around Metro, we're going to be dropping down to a low of 43, mostly cloudy skies. Now, around the rest of the areas, we're dropping down to the 30s in Ramona at 34, Mount Laguna coming down to a low of 27, but for Saturday, pleasant air is filtering in across the coastal regions of California and then across Southern California. Not as cold as we're pushing into Southern Nevada and then even across Northern Nevada and the Four Corners. But San Diego County coming in with a high of 66 in San Diego, and then Ramona coming in with a high of 66. Oceanside, similar story, rinse repeat, a little cooler, of course, near Mount Laguna with a high of 41. Now, if we take this through Futurecast, what we're going to be dealing with, really not much through the weekend, but late Sunday is when we could pick up a shower across the San Diego region, but overall we are going to be staying mostly dry and nice as that pleasant air is going to hang on. It's not going to be a washout by any means, but along the coast, we're rising to the mid-60s for the weekend, 63 for your high on Monday. Tuesday, 59, and Wednesday, windy with a shower as we are going to be turning colder and wetter for the middle of the week. Same story, more inland. We're coming in, starting off in the upper 60s. Whew, not too bad. 67 for the high on Sunday, but then we are dropping again for the middle of next week, dropping almost 10 degrees from Tuesday into Wednesday with a shower or two possible for the middle of the week. And as we get closer to the mountains, that's where that rain is changing over to snow. Frigid with just a high of 25 by the middle of next week. So let's enjoy these upper 30s, low 40s while we can for the weekend. And then across the deserts, we're going to be rising through the 70s for Monday into Tuesday, but then dropping down to the 50s by Wednesday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Bree Guy.
Senator John Fetterman has renewed a conversation about mental health. The Pennsylvania Democrat has checked himself into the hospital for clinical depression. As Lauren Fox reports, there's been an outpouring of support from Fetterman's colleagues as well as those in the medical field.
Democratic Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania voluntarily checked himself into Walter Reed National Military Medical Center to, quote, receive treatment for clinical depression, according to a statement from the senator's office. The statement also says that Senator Fetterman has experienced depression off and on throughout his life, but that it only became severe in recent weeks. And after examining John, the doctors at Walter Reed told us that John is getting the care he needs and will soon be back to himself. On Twitter, his wife Giselle said that she is so proud of him for asking for help and getting the care he needs. Last May, Fetterman suffered a serious stroke while campaigning.
And let's also talk about the elephant in the room. I had a stroke.
And raise your right hand.
And just a few months later, he was elected to the Senate.
We know that Senator Fetterman pushed himself so hard in those weeks after the stroke when, in an ideal world, he would have been recovering.
Emergency physician Dr. Megan Rainey says while there is no indication that depression is related to his stroke,
people who have a prior history of depression are at highest risk of a relapse of depression after a major medical challenge like a stroke.
The American Stroke Association says depression is common among stroke survivors, impacting a third of them.
It's very normal for people who go through an acute medical illness or an acute trauma to have trouble with coping afterwards. Sometimes people can have symptoms that are similar to post-traumatic stress. Sometimes they can get anxiety or depressive symptoms. I'm proud of him for recognizing them and getting treatment, which not everyone knows to do.
It was just last week when Fetterman checked into George Washington University Hospital after feeling lightheaded. He was discharged 2 days later, and according to his office, the test results revealed no new stroke. Over on Capitol Hill, there is bipartisan support behind the freshman senator. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said he's happy to hear the senator is getting the help he needs, while Republican Senator Ted Cruz echoed the statement saying mental illness is real and serious.
And that was Lauren Fox reporting. Today, President Joe Biden joined those offering their support to Fetterman. The president tweeted, "Getting the care you need is brave and important. We're grateful to you for leading by example." In California, marijuana is legal and relatively safe drug, but legalization has brought an increase in adverse side effects and cannabis-related ER visits. KPBS SciTech reporter Thomas Fudge has the story.
Michael had been smoking marijuana for at least 20 years when, one day, he started feeling heartburn. Soon after he had a bowel movement, the severe nausea began.
After that, I had these vomiting cycles about every 4 hours when I would just have this incredibly brutal nausea.
Michael is an Ocean Beach resident who didn't want his last name used.
This went on a Sunday. I went to urgent care that night. They couldn't help me. The next morning, I wound up in the emergency room getting an IV for dehydration.
The condition Michael suffered is called cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, a severe nausea that can happen among people who have used marijuana for a long time. Other side effects of cannabis include a rapid heart rate, paranoia, and cannabis-induced psychosis. San Diegan Justin Morrison comes from a family with a history of mental illness. He remembers getting high after seeing a movie.
I had to remain in the parking lot in the car with my friend till about 3 o'clock in the morning because during that time I became catatonic. I was unable to speak, and I had sort of intense visualizations of regressing backward in time back into the womb.
He said his brother had it much worse, ending up in the hospital several times after using pot, in one case for 6 months.
It has a particular effect on his attention, and so he tends to get hyper-focused on, let's say, kind of metaphysical elements. So he'll have a conversation with someone and start to believe that this person has mystical powers, that is perhaps, a saint or Jesus Christ himself.
A study out of UC San Diego showed that after cannabis was legalized for medical use in California in 1996, many elderly people were ending up in the hospital. The study found an 1,800% increase in cannabis-related emergency room visits among people older than 65 from 2005 to 2019. Dr. Benjamin Hahn, a geriatrician and UC San Diego professor, authored the study. The study didn't specify what conditions caused the hospital visits, but Hahn says his work with older folks who use medical cannabis have been revealing. He said one spoke of a time he swallowed quite a few cannabis-laced gummies.
And then, 2 hours later, my heart is racing, it's like my heart is racing. I'm so anxious. I don't know what's going on. And then they ended up in the emergency department.
Doctors like Hahn stress that cannabis is not a drug all people need to avoid. Keep in mind, he said, alcohol-related ER visits happen at 10 times the rate of cannabis. But there are some groups of people that are definitely at risk of cannabis side effects. Igor Grant, the director of UCSD's Center for Medicinal Cannabis Research, said many old folks are unfamiliar with cannabis, and when you use cannabis orally, you don't feel the effect right away.
They think, well, maybe I haven't taken it up enough, so they take more. But what's actually happening is there's this delayed process of absorption, and then when they take a lot more, they get hammered.
Grant said the condition of nausea and vomiting that Michael suffered is not uncommon, but it is a bit ironic since cannabis can actually prevent nausea in cancer patients.
In my brother's case,
Justin Morrison said his brother, who suffered psychosis after cannabis use, is doing better. Now he knows he can't touch marijuana.
This is how you do a single dose without overloading. Right here, this thing.
Michael from Ocean Beach still uses cannabis to treat his PTSD. He shows me what he calls an O-ring he uses to limit his use to a small hit. After suffering nausea years ago, he learned that he was just taking too much. And given the strong THC content in today's pot, you need to be careful to moderate your use of it.
People need to be educated about marijuana use, and they need to be warned.
Michael added that these days, medicinal users are usually left to figure out the cannabis doses they need on their own. The study of cannabis has been held back because it remains a Schedule I narcotic under federal law. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Previs Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.